Folks, this episode of the Redneck Country Podcast is brought to you by OutdoorFunctions.com. OutdoorFunctions.com is an online calendar-based system where you can go on, scroll month to month to month so that you ensure you don't miss any kind of outdoor function coming down the pipe. Anything from clinics to banquets to fundraisers to gun club events, whether it's practices or competitions, folks, they're all on there. Head on over to OutdoorFunctions.com and take a look. You can even sort by the type of event you want to look for. At this point in time, they have completely wiped their calendar due to COVID to ensure all the events that are posted there are truly happening, and therefore, folks, they need your help to rebuild it. For free, go on and hit the event submission button on the top right and be able to put your event in there to start to populate this calendar back up post-COVID so that we can all get back out and enjoy the outdoors together. So, folks, spread your wings, try some outdoor events, and please be sure to check out www.outdoorfunctions.com. Hey, folks, what other Redneck Country Podcast? You are on with Real Redneck Todd Millard, and I've got the almost guy, Real Redneck Thom. Bill, are you there?
Good evening, everybody. What a beautiful day. Feels like almost fall temperatures. I got my sweatshirt on and my long pants here. Thinking these days are getting real close to sitting in goose blinds and deer stands.
It is starting to turn into waterfowl season.
Certainly is. Yeah.
Yep. I'm
getting
excited.
close. I was in the garage last night and I was texting you. I was watching the ball game and all of a sudden I hear the honks coming across the sky. I couldn't see them, but I knew that they were there. So the geese are finally starting to find the fields around home here. And I got permission through a friend to hunt a second field, which I don't know if there's going to be any birds in that field or not come September 10th or thereafter. But you know what?
Because they know.
Yeah, no kidding. But at least having permission doesn't hurt to be able to drive past and say, yep, birds there, let's go for a hunt tomorrow morning or whatever it is. So
absolutely. Dad's been driving around locking in permission, signing forms and delivering pepperettes and hoodies. So we're getting our spots taken care of, and I am noticing some crop coming off in some areas, and the hot magic field has got corn in it, and he told us chances are that corn will be off come September. So now awesome. We are rocking and rolling.
It gets a hard pump and get you excited about getting up and sitting and setting up some decoys and getting going.
Yep,
so,
getting ready to rock.
Your duck stamp yet?
I have not. I
did.
Did you? You got yours? You're ready to rock?
Ready to rock. It was super easy. Got it online. Went into the post office. And they did not have stamps yet. And I said, well, let's explore the online option. And sure enough, I was able to print it off, and they're actually going to mail me the stamp too for the collection, you know. And if anybody out there collects stamps year over year, then that is still an option if you go online to get your stamp.
Yeah, right on.
Your license. So
they still send it to you. That's kind of cool.
All I need now is geese and time.
Yeah. Absolutely. The time is the crucial one, but yeah, we're getting pretty pumped too. Dad's gone around, done that permission. Now when that farmer telling you that corn is going to be off before September, you're like, like I'm drooling now. And Bill, you're going to have to pack your bags, buddy. It's going to be on.
I'm on my way. I tell you, I'll be there.
It is. It's going to be on.
I talked to my brother this week too, and he had made mention of the fact that he listened to our podcast last week and his eyes opened up to another hunting opportunity. He says, Bill, how come we haven't done more of this goose hunting and duck hunting and stuff? Says,
yeah.
I didn't realize how fun waterfowl hunting could be. And I said, hey, honestly, I didn't know if he was
seriously, That's awesome. Yep. That's awesome.
And he got really excited about the prospect of doing a little bit more hunting, not just the 1 week rifle hunt or the bow hunt for deer, waterfowl and maybe a little even more fishing. He wants to do some of that from listening to our podcast.
That is so awesome. See, and it's working. That's it then. That's it. There. Success. Yeah. We can stop now. Lock her in.
That's it. I got my brother hooked up to more hunting.
Yeah. Well, thanks folks for joining us on the Redneck Country Podcast. No, that is so awesome. But yeah, well, tell him to pack his bags, bring them. We got 7 layout blinds, and typically only 3 of us ever hit them, maybe a 4th. But so come on down.
Awesome. I have a traveling partner there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right on.
Did you have a good week?
I did. It actually, we have joined a second gun club because two's better than one. So we went out and shot a little bit at the New Gun Club, which it's not really new. I mean, I know all the guys, I shoot there often, but we now became members. And so it was kind of more of a welcoming factor of, hey, thanks for joining and welcome. And so it was really warm and fuzzy, fun. And so Sunday we shot and had a blast, and it was a good time. We just shot some trap and we're chirping each other while we were doing it. And so it was an all right time. So yeah, can't complain.
Close to home?
Yeah, it's only about 26 minutes from my door. So can't complain. Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah, rather convenient then. It's got all the same features and
trap, sporting clays, rifle range. Yeah, we're good to go.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's a good deal. So that's good to
aside
always
from
have
that,
a secondary option.
Yeah, but aside from that, that's pretty much the week. But now tonight we got something special.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you ready? So
I'm not sure.
Bill is unaware of this. So I had some. You know what? I'm not even going to say it till we get him on the phone, and then I will introduce him with him on the phone. So give me 1 minute. Let me make some phone calls. Pete, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, 1 second. I'm going to bring on Kevin.
Hello.
Kevin?
Yeah.
1 sec,
Kevin
buddy.
here.
I'm going to bring you in. 1 sec. Pete?
Hello.
Kevin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody on.
Everybody's on. Okay, so Pete and Kevin meet Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, Pete, and Kevin.
How you guys doing tonight?
We're good. How are you?
Oh, outstanding. Living the dream.
So I haven't really informed Bill a whole lot about this because I didn't want to scare him away. So I'm going to do a mini intro right here, and then you guys can kind of introduce who you are. But Bill, way back in the day, like we're going back, I don't want to date myself. I mean, but if you look at Kevin's pictures, you'll pretty much understand how long ago this possibly was. About 20 years ago, we met at my first job out of college and became fishing buddies. And ever since, we've been we were close for a while. And then as I moved on to a different spot, I know Petey moved on. Kevin is moved up. And so kind of fell apart from fishing together. But due to social media, we're able to see each other still. Everybody's still kind of fishing. Me, not as much as these two. And so I thought...
I haven't seen any fish in your hands at all, Todd.
Sorry, Kevin, you're breaking up there. I couldn't hear that.
Yeah. It's called a landline.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So I thought, what an awesome podcast to have, because we've done our buddy Nick, pretty much a real redneck, and done the lake thing and the walleye and the muskie. But I'm watching Facebook and these guys are making me jealous. And it's always been their focal point is like local ponds. And I thought, what is more relatable to the weekend warrior, the local people, than hitting local ponds and catching bass like crazy? And I mean, not little bass, massive bass. And so these guys, they pretty much taught me, because I fished, but I fished for trout, as we typically spoke, but these guys got me into fishing bass. So I thought, oh my gosh, this podcast would be perfect to bring home the local pond, that anybody can go out, find a local pond, start nailing some bass. And these two are the guys that are going to help you make that happen. And so, Bill, I'm bombarding you because the personalities of these two are like 10 times what I am. And so I apologize in advance, but I'm tasking you with the keep us on track and ask the intelligent questions.
Based on what I hear so far, I've got about 5 minutes before this goes off the rails. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Okay, so
what I did see just to start off is some amazing pictures. So I'm kind of excited to hear about some stories of Todd in the olden days, and you guys have been catching some big fish, and I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, we'll save that stories about Todd for maybe later in the podcast when we run out of time. Yeah. But up front...
The walk on water story is quite funny.
Yeah. Well, again...
I was waiting for the elephant to get up.
We'll get there, maybe.
And the shoes to come off.
Oh, yeah.
We might have time for that. But regardless, I have this beautiful editing function that I can do. So, Pete... You go first. Introduce yourself. How much do you fish? What do you like to fish for? And then we'll do Kevin, and then we'll go into, because I know both your styles. I almost could answer the questions for you, I think, but I want to hear you tell it. And if you've changed from the last 20 years from using your, if I could spoiler alert, your rubber lizard, but you take it away.
Well, my name's Pete. I don't know if we're doing last names or not, man. You can call
That's your call. Everybody knows who I am, so I don't care.
You know. Yeah. What I like, dude, I fish, honestly. I'd fish every day if I could. I probably get out minimum 2 times a week. Sometimes I'm 4 times a week. You know, we travel a lot up to see family up, you know, Kingston, Gananoque, you know, north, you know, Tweed, Belleville area. So there's some months I'm fishing 2 weeks, 3 weeks out of the month. There's some months I might fish, you know, 3 or 4 times. COVID, I've been fishing a little more. You know, I'm semi-retired. You know, I'm home with my wife. She's, you know, a retired veteran, and you know, I'm helping out her and the kids. I got 4 kids, so it's a handful. And
she has 5 kids. Freedom, and you actually did it. I think we used to talk about Freedom 45 for a while.
Yeah, I think so. But honestly, man, I've been blessed to be able to make the transition. Hard at first, you know, but being home and then helping out's been awesome. And I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's freed me up to do more of, you know, the things I enjoy, which, I mean, are fishing and motorcycles, right? So, you know, I'm safe to say twice a week at least, you know, I'm out there throwing.
Nice.
I've got back into pond fishing. I mean, since we did that stint there, right? I got a boat, you know, I spent a lot of time on Lake Erie.
Yep.
Fishing, you know, I've done the St. Clair thing, not in my own boat. But it's probably been the last couple of years I've gotten back into the local pond fishing, right? I mean, I think it's safe to say, you know, we've all seen a big increase with traffic, you know, and the whole conservation thing's kind of gone, you know, a different direction. You know, I mean, you know, I won't dwell much on that, but it's nice seeing, you know, Kevin going back to one of those old spots and just crushing fish over the last couple of weeks, man, because I've been out there offshore and it's been tough. But I'm lucky with I know, man. I keep bringing my son's rod out there and I'm like, what am I doing, man? You know? But I'm lucky having my little private pond. You know, last week I nailed that monster there, and I mean, it's nice seeing some big fish back in these ponds, right? So, yeah. But I mean, dude, I fish for everything, man. I've been really the last couple of years, ice fishing has kind of taken over for me. I don't want to say I enjoy it more, but some days I do, if that makes sense.
Ice fishing?
Ice fishing.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's cold.
I'm up in, you know what? I'll tell you, you can explore a little bit more and you're inside in a hut if you want to be. I'm up on Lake Simcoe. I'm just about 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from the lake up here in Barrie.
No way. I spent quite a bit of time there this winter. A buddy of mine and I started first week of January on 3 inches of black. And I mean, we were driving, from my house to his house, because he's north of London. Then we take the back highways. I mean, we were 6 hours plus, you know, every Saturday driving up to Simcoe to get some fish, right?
And things have changed so much on Lake Simcoe with the water access and stuff. I launch out of Guildford if I'm going to go.
Yeah, that's where I go too. Yeah.
Yeah, but they've changed that parking lot and the structure so much there. It's very difficult for us to get out. And we've had lots of times where we would just walk. We would, park as far up to the railroad tracks even. You know what I'm talking about. There's a railroad tracks there. Cars are parked right up to. But you get snowmobile or whatever, and you walk and find yourself where all the huts are and drill your hole and go, right? But we parked up in those, up where the houses are and stuff, right? And then, now that Ron's got that new bait shop there at the marina, we parked there a couple times, pay to park, obviously. Yeah.
But I mean, when you're, when you're hauling a 6-foot sled with your hut, and your augers and all that stuff, a bit of a closer park is nice. But I mean, we've walked, when I'm hitting Bay of Quinte. I mean, we're walking 2 miles one way.
Yeah.
And that's
dedication right there. For sure.
Yeah, bro. And I mean, honestly, it's something about working that hole and you're working straight down, right? You're not casting, 50 feet, 100 feet out, you virtually in a 360 radius, right, in a boat. You're working straight down that hole, playing with the electronics and, getting that fish to, commit. And I love it, man. Like, I'm blessed. All 4 of my kids love fishing, right? So it's a great excuse to take the quote family out, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, man, I'm stoked about the winter. I can't wait, man. And I know that sounds, terrible, right? Part of me hates it because I got to get my motorcycle put away, but part of me can't wait. Like, I'm getting antsy for the snow, man.
Yeah, it's a different type of fishing for sure. And you know what?
Definitely.
For us, it's a safety deal trying to figure out when the right time is to get out of the water, because there's been a lot of people that just go way too soon, and it just makes me nervous. My son and I 100%. Went out one time a couple of years ago, and we thought we had enough ice, and that ice shifted and cracked, and it cracked right through our hut. I mean, we were safe. It wasn't separating. It wasn't
right.
But it's the noisy ice and that crack coming through your hut. And the pucker factor.
Nerve-wracking. I got to tell you, neither of you have sold me.
Yeah.
You have to be safe, safe it right. I'll walk out, spot it, take our time. And if it's not safe, it's not safe. I mean, I've driven and then like packed up and turned around and, and loaded up the car and drove back home. I mean, it's not safety, first and, foremost. I mean, there's no fish worth your life, right? Plain and simple. So, but man, it's fun though.
That's good. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, would you like to, I'm afraid to ask this one, but would you like to give us a further intro to Kevin was kind of the ringleader to get us going, Pete, way back in the day.
Yep.
He knew that he's like, you live where? Have you ever fished these ponds? Nope.
Yep.
We're going. And then after that, it was like lighting a fuse. So Kevin, it's been
game on.
Yeah, it was. So Kevin, it's been 20 years since I've known you, but you lay it down. Who is Kevin? How often does Kevin fish? And how does Kevin like to fish?
All right. So my name's Kevin, and
hi, Kevin.
Todd and Pete. Hey, I've known Todd and Pete for 20 some years, and we really became good friends just by going out and being silly like we were 16-year-old kids and we were grown men. Well, 2 of us were grown men, and then there was Todd. But we would go fishing, and it was such a blast, and it was like such a stress reliever that we would just go out and just be silly and catch lots of fish.
Yeah.
And it was just jumping ponds. And I've still been doing that ever since. Like, I just love doing that, just getting out. I get out probably at least 2-3 times a week, as much as I can. Every weekend for sure. I drop my canoe someplace and paddle around and catch some fish. But I fish great, like the big lakes too. Like I fish Erie and St. Clair, but I always like getting back to the pond fishing. It's just the roots of it.
Oh, and you could do it.
Lots of fish.
Yeah, you could do it anywhere. And when you first said to me, and that's what I with the intro there, I said, there was these 3 ponds by my place, and you said, "Wait a minute, you live where?" Well, have you ever fished these 3 ponds? And then we went, and I mean, we were slaying the largemouth, and every now and then you'd catch a good 5-6 pounder.
Oh, easy
5-6.
100%.
And it was just, that just lit the fuse. And so after that, I realized that, holy crap, you watch at the time, it was like the only tournaments on that you could even ever look up. It was pre-internet, not that Kevin would even know what that is, but it was pre-internet and everything. So it wasn't like you could YouTube Bassmasters, but all you knew was Bassmasters. Like Van Dam was just coming on. And so that was the only exposure to bass fishing until this. And I was like, you mean this is in my backyard? Like, it literally is 4 minutes from my house. And that lit my fuse to go, how many more ponds are there? Where are all these bass?
I was just going to I'm super intrigued there because there's that many ponds where you guys are that you can have that much success.
Gravel pits. Well, there seems to be a lot of excavators
so
around.
In those days, though, Todd, like you were saying, that was pre-internet.
Yes,
So we
100%.
we basically heard from somebody. Like I think I heard from a client about these ponds, and then I started trying them out, and next thing you know, we were all trying them out. But now with Google Earth, I can kind of look at things. Like I can find a couple of spots and think about it, and if it's a good spot, if it's a river or a pond or something, I'll go check it out, see if it's available for me to walk on. If it's not private property, if it is, I can go talk to the person and say, hey, introduce myself and see if I can get permission. Sometimes they say no. A lot of times they say yes, and I've got no issues.
Yeah, but, that's a good spot. Not to cut you off there, but that's a good spot for the listeners. That's where you would start. If I'm a new guy that doesn't know the area, your recommendation would be to get on Google Maps and start just hitting the pavement and seeing where you can get in access to and whatnot.
And just to check places. And then when you drive down, you'll see guys fishing. You start chit-chatting. Like I was at my other spot this past weekend, and there's some guy talking to me, and he starts telling me about a couple of spots that he just found. And I'm going like, okay, keep talking. Awesome. I'll listen.
That's awesome.
I'll be hitting those spots soon.
But you forget though, right? We also did a lot of conservation at those early spots, right? I mean, we cleaned up a lot of garbage. We worshipped those three ponds like they were our own.
Man.
Like, release.
Yeah, 100%, man. We treated that like it was what it was, and that was a gift to us. I mean, for Todd and I, we lived out there, so I mean, it was literally what, Todd, 8 minutes, 10-minute drive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. And we had this sanctuary where we could go and get lost for a couple hours a night, even after work, and it was easy for us to bag 24, 32.
Yeah, we'd have competitions. All right, are you ready? In the next hour, how many can we nail? And it was like 21-20 when you were done. And you're like, this is insanity. I can't believe that many bass.
But they'd range from your average, pounders, but up to those 4.5, even 5+ pounders, man. Nice. You were guaranteed one of those big buckets every time we were there.
Yep.
And that's what kept us coming back there. Yes, we had a great time, right? We were, a bunch of shits and gigs. We were catching fish, acting like Kevin said, school kids. It was, dude, man, like I still remember those days like it was yesterday, man.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's awesome, man. And I love that about this whole, fishing, or what you want to call it. But like, it's wicked, man. Like I'm so pumped that, more and more, people are getting into it, right? It's a wicked,
and even remember too, Pete, like you and I would get together every bass opening and go to a place that we called Basstopia. And we would talk to guys that would go out on, at Long Point. They'd go out and they'd come back and they'd be bragging that they caught 8 fish. Yep. And they'd talk to Pete and I, and they'd say, well, what'd you guys catch? Well, we caught over 100. We broke 100 this year. We got 104. And the guys go like, you're lying. We're going like, well, here's some pictures of the big ones we took pictures of. Yeah. Like, sure, there's a lot of ones that are small, but you're catching 100 fish.
Yeah. In what, 4 or 5 hours?
Oh, in 4 or 5 hours. Like, we'd get on the water at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, get off the water before noon. Yeah. We've caught almost 100 fish. And Todd, if you thought that you had bass thumb at the ponds that we went to before. Yeah, we had bass thumb after lipping 100.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude.
You finally found out what bass thumb was. It only took you 20 years.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like,
you hold up, Todd looks big.
Oh, but like a slow day out there was like what, 40, 52 fish or something?
Oh yeah, like we felt bad if we only caught 40 fish.
Yeah,
like, man, what a slow day.
but do you remember that one?
Oh my goodness, that one still gives me goosebumps. When you pick that thing up with both your hands.
Are we still talking about fishing?
It was. This was almost as big as Todd.
Pretty close, man. Todd back then, that fish outweighed him.
Oh yeah.
I got nothing.
This fish pulled 2 grown men in a crawdad.
With a battery, the trolling motors, all the gear.
Pulled us around this pond for about 25 minutes.
Yep. I was like,
and then
it's like grumpy old men. Grumpy old man in the sea.
He went to grab the net and he goes, Kevin, the net's too small.
Yeah. Literally, man, I reached down with both hands, and I mean, like, I got big mitts, man, and 2 hands to pull that thing out of the water. Now, we didn't have a scale or nothing, but
I'm a massive fish.
I'm gonna say that fish was 24 plus inches, easy.
Oh, easily 24 plus inches for sure. Yeah.
And it's probably the biggest. No, I mean, I've caught some big bass, but that's probably the biggest bass I've seen. Had my hands on, hands down, in all my years.
Still the biggest bass I've ever caught.
Yep. And here's
just as a question. Sorry, these ponds that you're fishing, spring fed? Are they fed off other bodies of water? Typically, that you're looking for.
Mostly.
You know what? Some of them are. Some are like back farmers' ponds. Runoff ponds. Yeah.
Some are spring fed. Some are like you get into the excavating and ponds and stuff like that.
Some get a little bit of everything and such. So they'll have runoffs, but they'll get spring fed as well. But
they're all landlocked for the most part.
They're all landlocked.
Right. Yeah. They're not tributaries or coming off anything like that. They're pretty much all just.
So the fish that are in there, and there's no other fish coming in except for that they're breeding inside of that place.
Like in that one spot, dude, where you got that monster, that place has got big fish, period, man. Like those perch, the crappies. I mean, we've caught crappies on 4.5 inch tube jigs. Yeah.
See,
like just slaughtering them.
Even a bluegill. That bluegill that took a 4-inch tube. I think it's something in the farm water. It's something in the steroids in the farm water.
It's gotta be something, dude. Something.
I'm going to start drinking it. So,
well, dude, I was up there at the end of ice season, man, in February, and we were averaging 10 to 13 inch crappies every fish through the ice.
You're fishing these ponds in ice.
Yeah, dude. I went out there February. Yeah. Oh, I'm talking good solid 8 inches or more.
Man. Yeah. Not my gig, but that was a good leeway. So you mentioned 4-inch tubes. So I typically knew what you guys fished with 20 years ago. Has your repertoire changed? If it has, okay, great. But back then I know what it was. So care to share the secrets of what you used back then, what you use today, and how you evolved to get there.
Kevin, me or you first?
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. I said evolved. I shouldn't.
It was funny because when we first started fishing the tubes and everything, that was at the ponds.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Pete and I still stayed together, and we were doing every bass opening. And Pete would always use these little lizards, and he'd catch some fish, but the tubes always seemed to outfish the lizards and everything. And then
you were the master on that tube. You were that slow, skipping it under the trees, letting it fall down, working the finesse off the bottom. I was more that impact. I would switch up 3, 4, 5 different lures, plastics or whatnot, and you were still pitching that same tube, right? I'm more that.
It's the slow. It's the patience,
that's the
right?
reason we caught 100 fishes because we had 2 different presentations.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
And that's the one thing.
Okay, so the tube, Kev.
For myself, like I have changed. I hardly use a tube now. I use it once in a while, especially if I'm going after smallies. But now I use something. It's called. I hate to say this because every time I tell people I can't even get the darn things in the stores anymore. It's called a Pit Boss from Berkeley.
Oh, buddy, we've been throwing those for years too, man.
Oh my goodness, that's my favorite lure. And and then I show people what I'm doing, just kids or whatever, teenagers, and next thing I know, I go to where I want to buy them, and we're sold out. I'm going like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So
you started throwing those the last few times we were still bass opening together because you got me on those.
I've been using them for years now. So
and I've got probably half a dozen or more various colors in my binder, right? For I don't think you can go wrong with any type of plastic.
So right? How are you rigging them? Carolina, Texas, and then break it down if you
weedless.
can.
I use a number 4 big gap hook, and I just throw weedless and weightless. But my fishing style, like even this past weekend, when I hit a pond, I hit the top water first. I hit the fish that are aggressive and that are feeding and things. So if I'm casting here and one breaks over here, I throw over there, and 9 times out of 10 I catch that fish that just broke the water because they're actively feeding.
Yeah.
I could slow down and go deep and everything, and I see guys doing that, and they're catching a couple of fish, but I'm catching like 5-6 fish to their one. and because I'm getting the aggressive fish. But if the aggressive fish aren't going, then I slow down my presentation and I'll go closer to shore and I'll pitch towards the bank. And then if that doesn't work, then I'll go really slow, and then I'll slow and go into the middle and drop down something and bounce something and see if I can find the ones that are lethargic. But I tend to go after the aggressive ones because I've only got a couple of hours to go out there.
Yep, makes sense.
And so you're throwing top water. What are you throwing on top? Frogs?
Oh, yeah. Well, that bit boss, I'm throwing it on top of the...
Oh, you keep that up. You don't let it sink. You just throw it on the lily pad kind of thick mat stuff?
Right on top.
And then drag it across.
And I pop it along, and it flutters along, and the pike and the bass are just coming up crazy for it.
Nice.
And if I want to, I can let it sink, but I just let it slow flutter. And every once in a while, I'll get a fish that way too. But 9 times out of 10, I'm looking for the aggressive fish, the ones that are actively feeding.
Yeah.
And out of the ones that I catch, I tend to get a lot of bigger ones too, because they're the ones that are really putting on the feed bag. But
I got you. Yeah. So you use...
I'm going to stop you guys there just for a split second so I can get a visual picture of what's going on. My picture in my head of a pond that's a man-made pond is less than 10 acres. But what I'm hearing from you guys are out on canoes. So you're launching the canoe. You're finding a shallow or a weed bed or some lily pads on this man-made pond. And what is the average size? 10 acres or less, the size of the ponds that you're on, or are they bigger?
10 would be big. It's probably smaller and things.
Yeah,
most of them, they're mill ponds, so they're not big. Like that one that you and I fish, Pete, that was a big pond. Like that was 100%. A big one that we used to go.
100%.
But most of the ponds that I'm fishing on are probably way less than 10 acres.
Oh, easy, yes. Yeah, for sure.
And the depth of the pond would range from...
Well, it has to be at least deep enough that the fish can overwinter because they're landlocked, right?
Yeah,
so they have to be at least 26 or so feet, 26, 30 feet, somewhere where the fish can go overwinter.
Yeah.
But
okay, I'm just trying to, for everybody that's listening, trying to get them to have that mental picture in their head of, going down to a pond, fishing offshore is our way of pond fishing. But what you guys do, what you're finding is the ponds that you can launch a boat, or do you spend, is it 50-50? Like,
it's 50-50. It's 50-50. We originally started doing the walking, and we still do. Yeah. I still walk, my little pond here where I fish, at least a couple times a week. I can walk that pond in minutes if I really wanted to hustle. It's that small, and I don't think the deepest part's 15 feet in the middle, maybe a little deeper than that. Like, we've got canoes, and my kids will go out in the canoe and fish the middle on the weed lines. But we were starting off walking, and then we just kind of progressed to the canoes, the crawdads, to getting these bigger, back ponds, because back then, Kev, I mean, honestly, we were usually the only two fishing them on bass opening until people started to show up, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. We like Pete was saying and Todd was saying, when we first started, it was all walking around. None of us had a boat, none of us had a canoe or a kayak. So we walked and we fished and we just had a great time. And we would pond jump just walking shorelines.
Yep.
But as things progressed and we got information on certain ponds and some it's very little shore access, that the only way you can get into these places either is with a little boat with electric motor or a canoe or a kayak.
Yeah,
and if you can get back to the back places where people can't fish, that's where you're going to catch lots of fish.
100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, those spots where nobody is around, there's enough oxygen in the water, enough feed, enough.
And the fish are
enough everywhere.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And it doesn't take much. It takes like a little John boat or, I mean, a canoe, but that ain't my deal. I'm not getting into something that stupid tippy, but
walk on water. I've never seen you actually in a boat, but yeah.
So yeah, I got a little 12-foot John boat, and then you just go get yourself one of those electric trolling motors, a marine battery. You're good to go. And like the one I got, I went and bought a big.
That's what Pete and I fished with at that one place. We were lucky enough that somebody would lend me that boat.
Lend us that boat every year.
How much? Yeah, 8 years in a row we were there and stuff.
Yeah, big time.
And
at least.
At least 8 years in a row. That we did every bass opening there, and we'd come back with stories and going crazy and everything. And but now I progressed over the years. I bought myself a little 12-foot canoe that I can just throw on the top of the truck and just get someplace and drop it in, and I can handle it by myself. And
definitely,
it's really easy just to get to places. Yep. It just opens things up.
No, yeah. I agree. Yeah, my little 12, and that's why I like my little 12-foot John boat. It's small enough that two guys, I don't even have a trailer. I sold the trailer, throw it in the back of the truck, and away you go. Two guys can horse it out and drop it in, throw the little trolling motor on, and away you go.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. And then you're not wrecking anything with gas and everything else either. You're quiet and you're easy going through.
And that, for me, in all honesty, I enjoy that first part of the moment, or like in the morning when there's nobody around. Because I'm on the water at 5:30, 6 o'clock. There's not even anybody around. And just being on the water by yourself, the fog coming off, and
buddy.
You start pitching and you start catching fish, and there's nothing like it.
No, man, I agree.
Forget about work and everything else.
Yeah.
Peace. That's peace right there.
Oh, for sure, man.
So, Todd, I'm going to ask the favorite experience that you had with these two.
My favorite. Don't ask them.
Yeah.
So it is the 3 ponds like we've talked about, because we would hit these things so often. And so I think my most, I got so many, and I got pictures that every now and then when I'm cleaning up and a picture falls off the wall downstairs, or if they're in a box, and I'll snap it and I'll fire it off. I think I said it to you, Pete. I don't know how many times I got one, but probably my favorite is not even me fishing. And which is, it's kind of wicked because like Kevin introduced us to these ponds that I lived right there and I didn't even know they were. And in fact, my buddy, that was my deer hunting buddy, and he's passed away now. But it is what it is. A good friend. But his family backed on to these ponds right beside, and I had no idea. I mean, we never even thought about fishing these ponds. And so when he introduced us to him, I mean, like we said, it was on, and it was an absolute blast. And we go down and we would leapfrog each other, fishing away and yelling and screaming and holding them up, so that the other guy could see them, and trying to take pictures and getting pictures of the big hogs. And having a little mini competitions all the time, every other day. Well, come my wedding day, Kevin didn't live near us. He was probably 45 minutes away. And so come my wedding day, Kevin was invited down to my wedding and everything. And so have the wedding, you have that interim where you got to do the photo op deal, and then you have the reception. Well, what does people do during that break? Well, if you're Kevin, you go fishing because you're close to the ponds. And I'll be darned, but that my experience is at our wedding, when everybody's at the reception, Kevin comes over and gives me and my wife my new wife at that time, my newlywed, gives us our wedding gift. And it is a picture of him from earlier that day with the biggest hog out of these 3 ponds. And he's autographed it. and given it to us. And the story, he had to flag a car down on the side of the road so that he could take this picture. Because we're going back before selfies existed, so they didn't have a name. So
there were no cell phone cameras, man.
Yeah. Well, and Kevin doesn't have a cell phone. I think today he does not have a cell phone, and he used to chirp us about that. So that's my favorite. Was all of this time we spent fishing. We all worked together. And so I got married while I worked there. And so, we had this go down. And so it was just evident that Kevin had to go fishing on my wedding day because he was in the area. You're going to drive 45 minutes? you're going to go friggin' fishing. So,
right there,
so he did. And that was our wedding gift. It was kind of wicked awesome. So I still have that photo. I got all our photos, but that's my, on my nightstand, my man. I say goodnight. I say goodnight to you every night before I go to bed with a little kiss and I roll over.
Buddy, I have a picture of you hanging at my house, and my kids always say, "Who's that kid holding a fish?"
Yeah. At my age, I'm going to take that. It's still, I look the same to this day.
You do. Yeah.
You haven't gained a pound.
Oh, jeez. What did I do?
Too much.
So Bill, sorry, that's my favorite memory. I mean, we got so many of fishing down there and pulling in hogs and stuff, but that's the one that comes to mind right off the hop.
Pete, you got to let me tell the water story.
Giddy up, buddy.
My favorite story.
It's actually one of mine as well.
I don't think we asked you guys to share your favorite stories.
I'm asking. I'm actually asking.
I'm going to tell you a great story. There was this young man named Todd who wanted to get across this area of these ponds, and he thought it was all nice and dry ground, and he started walking across it, and of course it wasn't. And he started sinking.
No. It looked completely dry. There was, and you guys were like, I'm like, I want to fish over there. Like, we've never been over there. There's got to be some bass over there. And it looked, and you're like, you can't get over there. We don't have a boat. Yeah. You can't get over there. Screw that. You can walk across that. You can't walk across that. Yeah. In my defense, it looked rock solid.
Yeah. And in all fairness, I thought it wasn't going to sink anyway. You only weighed 20 pounds.
Well, that was the other thing. I'll just run fast.
Yeah, he didn't run fast enough. He sunk up to his shins. And did you lose a shin?
Dude, he was deeper than that, man. And then when that smell released, because the geese used to nest.
Drive home in that nice car.
Oh God! It looked like it was just this little matted over part of the pond where the geese would sit. Literally, I mean, if you weighed, 5 pounds, you'd be safe, right? But anything heavier than that was going to sink right through that mat and right through that cover. And you fell into this mud that was just like quicksand. And the stench from the geese constantly nesting there and sitting there, right? Everything was mixed in together. So Kevin and I are about 20 yards away watching this transpire. And Todd's
we're watching him come to, and we're just laughing and we're crying.
And I'm yelling to get me the freak out of me.
You drove home
naked.
Nobody helped.
I drove home naked. I took my clothes off and threw them in the trunk, and I drove home naked. And then I was concerned that they were going to call the police, that a naked dude was. I never drove fast.
There was some tighty whities or boxer shorts still on, but it was very funny watching you go.
Oh, jeez.
And what color was that car you were driving?
It was a manly blue.
I was going to say it was blue. Yeah.
A very manly blue.
Yeah, that was a funny.
But in my defense, when you're fishing with these two guys, you need to put in everything you can because we're men. This is a competition. We're down here to catch. If you don't catch the biggest, you better catch the most. But while you're catching the most, you want to add in that it was the biggest. So when you're looking at this overhang of these branches, and man, I know there's a massive bass under those branches, and a dude's backyard backed onto this spot, and he was a crusty man. He didn't own the property. He acted like he owned the property because he would yell at you. But he would never call the police or anybody because he knew he didn't have the right. But now I wanted to get into his backyard and fish that underhang. And that goose poop alley was my access to do it. And I honestly thought that it was solid enough that I could just skip right across that stuff. But
you didn't think to, poke it with a stick or throw a rock?
It looked solid, man. I was cruising.
There was no poking going on.
Well, there was poking. It was them going, yeah, you can't get across that. Well, now I'm going to prove to you I can. I'm getting across.
You did start skipping though. You did start skipping at first until you started sinking, and once you started sinking, it was more of a mad dash for the land, man.
Pete and I were rooting you on as you were going. Oh, because you almost made it 10 feet, and you were staying.
Yeah, at least. At least.
And you started sinking, and that was even funnier.
I think the odor is still locked in my nose, though. It was bad.
Oh, man. That was good. That was good.
But those ponds, they do. They got a whole lot of memories. Now they build a house on there. Some big conglomerate bought it and built a house.
Property and everything.
It's all gone now, yeah.
Yep. They just don't know.
What I'm hearing is you guys still have plenty of opportunities, and people that are out there listening just need to spend a little bit of time doing some research and talking around. These spots sound coveted. I mean, there's really not going to be a whole lot of talk at the local water cooler about the big fish that was caught and where, but people put enough research and time in, it doesn't matter if it's your area or up here, there's going to be some gold gems found and some fish caught.
Well, and that's it.
Agree.
And
I agree.
And that's why I thought
that, too, my big thing too is that people have to realize that these places are landlocked, and that if you start taking fish out of them, especially in quantities or whatever, it doesn't take long to decimate them. Like there's a couple of places where, we used to fish, and in a couple of years after guys are going there and keeping everything out of there and stuff, it just shuts it right down.
For sure.
And it takes 5-6 years for the ecosystem to catch back if it even can. But that's the sad thing about some of these places. Like there's those ponds in London, Ontario. Like those were great. I used to go there and catch 20, 30 fish. Now you're lucky if you can catch 2.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You don't respect it, you lose it, right?
Yeah,
100%.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I think that's the whole part of, to me, fishing and conservation goes hand in hand, right? And I mean, like how many times, Kevin, have we approached guys not being, rude, but, and asked them like, hey, like, stringers of a fish from like 10 inches to like, 4 pounders, and pulling them out of our Bastopia, they're not the healthiest eating fish.
No,
Fates and everything.
No, and especially at those times of the year.
When it's warm.
I mean, I remember, Kevin pulling out money out of his wallet, to hand it to the guy, saying like, "Here, man, go to the store and get some fresh fish, right? Like these are, not going to be, the most edible." And they get, they get rude, and they brush you off, and that's fine. But it's, you see that over and over and over again, right? And it's sad. I mean, especially with today's technology, back when we were doing it, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have like, YouTube and all these advantages, right? It was all people sharing secrets and sharing good, happy times with you. And they would ask you to respect it. And you respected it. Absolutely. Now, I mean, God, we can, Google Earth or, map, something out, take a drive, see, 20 cars parked, the side of a pond and be like, and, carry on from there. Right. It's tough for, and I find myself traveling more and more further, away to, fish.
And that's the other thing I would get at too, is the thing. It's like I love seeing like a dad with his kids fishing there,
100%.
catching a whole bunch of, even if they're just rock bass and sunfish. But some places you go there and people are keeping everything: sunfish, rock bass, crappie. Doesn't matter what it is, they're putting it in a bucket, and you're going like, "Look, are you kidding me?" And these kids come there and they can't even catch a little rock bass or a sunfish,
bluegill or nothing.
Yeah, and it's crazy. They've got to put up signs and say that's all they catch and release in these places. But
that makes sense. And we've always done that, right? We've always caught and released, always.
Yeah. Like I only keep if a fish, if I'm up north, usually during ice, or if I'm, Lake Erie walleye fishing.
Water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're there to harvest our limit, feed our families, and carry on. I mean, we spend a lot of money on the love of fishing. I mean, let's be honest.
For sure.
I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So I mean, if I'm going to harvest fish, a few times a year and feed my family, I do so. But the majority of the time, 100%. And the majority of the time, we're doing it for the pure love of catching the fish, and we're letting them go and we're releasing them. I was out there last week when when I got that big largemouth bass. And I was back there a few days to go with my older two kids fishing, and I saw a guy there, and we got talking, and he had said, "Oh, I don't think there's fish in here, but my son says he saw a big old bass, but I don't think there's bass here." Well, I pulled up a picture, and I said, "Well, there is, you know." And he's like, "Oh my God, like, you eat that thing? How'd it taste?" And I'm like, "Well, no, man, I let that thing go. You know, I let that thing go, right? I mean, like, it's, you know, it's funny, right?"
Yeah,
but
and they're going to be in those landlocked ponds and stuff. They're not going to be in the heat of the summer and everything else. They're going to be wormy and everything.
In the summer, the farm runoffs and everything. Like,
it's not wise.
No,
but yeah.
No, we want that experience. At least I, you know, would love to have that experience for not just me to enjoy, but, you know, everybody that goes there and they fish those ponds or this pond or that pond to experience getting a, you know, 24-inch bass. You know, mine was, you know, just shy of 23. You know, I called it 22 and a half. You know, but I mean that fish was almost 7 pounds. You know, mid sixes to high sixes, easy. And I will remember that day. I mean, I've caught some big bass in, you know, my life, but to catch, you know the size of that pond, right, Todd?
Yeah.
What I'm talking about?
Yep.
That's a small pond, and there's some big bass in there, and it's because it's, you know, it's on private property. You know, it sees a lot of pressure from people that are allowed to fish the property. But there's a ton of big fish, big bluegills, big crappies, big feeder fish. And if it stays like this and everybody's, you know, honest and on the same page, that fish is going to hit 8 pounds. You know, it might hit 9 pounds, you know?
Yep.
And that's within driving distance for you, me, and Kevin, like closer to, you know, to Kevin. But I mean, like, it's right there in our backyard. And I mean, I love that, right? Because my kids have got a chance to get that fish, right? Yeah. And it's wicked awesome, man.
No, that
but
is
even the places I was fishing this past weekend. It's 12 minutes from my house.
Exactly, man.
See, and that's what the whole thought of this podcast was. When I've always been I always considered myself a hunter fisherman. But until, and we would go and I would show it. And that's how you guys knew I was a fisher, because I'd come in after trout opener and show you the brown trouts that I caught, right? And so I had to bring that in. So I didn't realize that I could be more successful because I focus more on hunting than fishing, but I could not believe that again, 5 minutes from my house, there was these massive bass that I could go to anytime and I could catch. Now, again, it wasn't like Bassmasters type fishing with spinner baits. I mean, we watched some guys come down to those ponds and rip spinner baits and be like, "There's nothing here," and so that's the other. Yeah, that's the other point is soft plastic. Like Kevin, you introduced me to how to rig up a tube jig and make it. What do you call it? Weedless, right? So put it on. I do that today. So put that on. You don't really need a weight because you're in these ponds that there's not really moving water unless you're close to a dam or something. But for the most part, don't need the weight. And then away you go. Any kind of soft plastic, which you can buy at Walmart, Canadian Tire, your local tackle shop, and 5 minutes from your house. And man, you are slaying some monster, and it's everywhere. But people just didn't realize that. And I thought, man, having you guys on to share these experiences and get you amped up, like, because you guys now, I want to go again. Let's go. When are you guys coming? Like, where are we going? When are we going?
I'm game, dude. I'm game, man. Actually, I'm heading up north Monday to go fishing. But anytime, dude. I mean, Kevin and I are amped anytime, man. Like,
well, I didn't say Kevin.
Well, he wants a chance.
Good answer. Yeah. No, absolutely. Hey, man. We got to do it.
I know there's a lot more pictures of me with big fish than you with big fish.
That's because I don't ask to hold other people's fish when they reel them in. It's always that awkward moment when you're standing on the bank and some guy down from you reels one in and Kevin's running over. Can I hold that for you? Can I hold it? Do you mind it? Just 1 second. Todd, can I borrow your phone? I just got to take a picture.
That's why I love it, man.
Yeah, Todd, you've got a picture of me holding a fish in your house. I don't have one really of you holding. Well, no, I do. But it's just so my kids can laugh at it.
Well, I can't help jealousy. Like, I understand when you see that photo, it may envelop you.
Yeah.
This is why I love this, man, because we can bust each other's, you know what, and it's like, it's part of the whole experience, man. And I mean, God, 20 years ago when we first started doing this, I mean, crazy to think that we'd still be, you know, right here, right now, talking about it, man. You know, it's crazy, man. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks
for nice meeting you guys tonight. And having you guys come on and share some stories.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you.
Anytime you guys cut up Todd.
Yeah, honestly, I get on Bill so much. I was thinking that, oh my gosh, Bill's probably sitting there with a big grin on his face. Todd's getting beat up and he's got no rebuttal.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Well, thanks, guys.
No, that was a good one.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, both of you.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
And that'll do it for this week, folks. For the Redneck Country Podcast, I'm Bill, the almost guy Thom.
And I'm Todd. Thanks for listening. And folks, if you want to be part of the podcast or you want to give us some feedback or really contact us about anything, feel free to email us at podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Again, that's podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again next week.